what it's like to raise children at the fair?
Wow, what is it like to raise children at the fair? That's a very interesting question, because basically they've grown up here, and there is any number of children that have grown up here. It's amazing. You can go through here and see the different generations of children that are actually being raised and growing up. They're both in high school. There is a number of children here that are being homeschooled. Ours go to high school out in Prince William County. They get to dress up. They get to see things and do things that a lot of other kids don't get to do. They have fun doing it. Like I said, they've grown up in it, and it's like my son this year topped the 6-foot mark, and so most of the people here haven't seen him since last year. And so the first 2 weeks of fair, it's, oh my God, you've grown. And of course, Jimmy's going and ducking and running for cover because he's had, that. And they're working in the booth now, I think it's an interesting thing because it exposes them to a lot of different situations that a lot of children in our society don't get exposed to. They get to see how different things are done. They get history. They get to interact with the actors that are part of the court. Henry and Princess Mary was actually talking about taking my daughter out dressed up next weekend with the court to play Elizabeth. And because where's she at? Well, she's sitting over there. And possibly getting her into the acting staff next year as young Elizabeth. And so it exposes to a lot of things. I mean, I have the people that work for me in my booth are part-time. I have had a history professor that's worked for us. I've had RNs, registered nurses. I've got investment brokers. Right now, this may be their only income, but a variety of different. Susan Stevens is a high school teacher in Loudoun County. So you walk through here, you will find literally every group of people, from artists and crafters to rocket scientists in here, quite literally. It's an amazing family, it really is. And it is a family because we've known each other for many years, and we may not see each other or socialize with each other away from here, but every year at the beginning of fair, it's renewal of acquaintances like no time has passed, and it's really fascinating. So raising kids here, I think they have probably benefited from it a great deal. So,
have they ever talked to you about hearing about differences between other families? Like you say your children go to high school.
Yeah.
And have they ever come home and be like, hey, my friend so-and-so, their family's doing this and that, and like talking about the comparison between family and fair family.
Okay, the comparison between our children and other kids, yes, we're here on weekends when other families, but we also do arts and craft shows, we do Scottish games. This is how I make my living. And so yes, our activities are different from other families as far as the weekends and things like that. My daughter is in orchestra. She violin and goes to that sort of thing. So we do make efforts to have them have the normal, everyday type activities.
Yeah, and my question wasn't more about that. It was more like, have they noticed differences in either maybe personality or way kids are being raised, and like they?
Yes. Okay. Do they notice difference between themselves and other children their age?
Yeah, and like we have a kid who's I believe the other crew interviewed today named Sporky.
Okay.
And he talks a great deal. He's talked about a deal about it, the difference between his friends and him.
Mm-hmm.
And how much he actually appreciates what he's gotten out of growing up in the fair. He actually performs at the Virginia one. And that was more where I was going with my question. It was like, have they noticed a positive difference in their lives compared to the
have they noticed a positive difference? Yes, I would say they have noticed a positive difference. They're interested in a great many subjects other than video games, and I mean, not that they don't have more video games than I could imagine, but they're avid readers. It's amazing how much they actually can read and comprehend. And my daughter is in advanced English, taking German. Jimmy's third year Air Force ROTC. So yes, they have benefited from it because it's given them, as I said before, I think a broader spectrum on what our life is about and how you go about achieving these things. I live outside the box. I'm not the corporate 9 to 5. We're at home parents. Of course, it makes it harder for them to get away with anything, but I've made my living doing the jewelry and the goldsmithing for almost 40 years, and I've never worked, well, when I did work for the jewelry companies, yes, I had to be there on those. But for the most part, we set our own schedule, we set our own times, and if there's something happening during the week, I don't have to have a store open. I can go do something with them. So yeah, it's a different lifestyle, and it has its pluses and it has its disadvantages. They don't get to hang out with kids on weekends at the malls that much, which I think is probably a good thing in some ways. But they're both here, and they'll be here. Elise is going to be babysitting for one of the other generations of children later on today. And they all know each other, and they have the same as I said before about us. They have friends. Everyone here knows them. It's like, well, there's the comment made with my daughter, who is turning into quite a beautiful young lady. If anyone started to give her a hassle or you know, bother her, it's like, oh, excuse me, let me introduce you to 12 of my favorite uncles. So no, it's a different way of living, but it is quite enjoyable. And I don't think I would trade this for going back to work in a regular environment for anything in the world.
So you'd say there's definitely it takes a village kind of atmosphere.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's an experience. That's you know, I shoot in the archery tournament on Sunday. I fire the evening cannon. That close, you know, we do that. We have 2 cannons, mine and the fair's, and we fire them at closing every night. And you know, we do a little bit of living history. It's quite a broad spectrum of activities.
Can you tell me a little bit about your process in creating a piece? You talked about how you had one that what you created was absolutely nothing there yesterday.
Okay.
And now we have a beautiful pin.
Tell you about the process of making my piece.
Like also the thought process of how you.
Well, the thought process. Let me have one of my people bring a piece of jewelry over here, and I'll explain that to you. Susan,
Yes.
would you bring over the amber piece? This is one that's easy enough to go through. My thought process is, I'll tell you a story. I do Celtic designs. I don't copy them out of books. I sit down and sketch and draw until I get something I like. And they don't all get turned into jewelry, but a lot of times they do. But we had a lady that worked for us for many years at the festivals, and we were at a show, and she was showing a piece of my jewelry to a lady, and the lady asked her, well, where do these designs come from? And Angelica turned around, and I'm sitting in a chair, and said, out of Rob's head. And the lady had sort of a blank look on her face for a moment and went, Rob's head? I've never heard of that island. So I've managed to achieve the no man is an island unto himself. I've actually managed to achieve that. But what happens is I've studied the Celtic art form. I have a library on it from, I tell people I use influences from 500 BC up through Victorian England. This piece started out literally as a flat sheet of sterling silver. The rest of this was added to it through different processes.